You think making matcha-flavored double skim milk custard is easy, right? That's what I thought. So I made one. Ingredients are no-brainer. 250 grams of milk, 1 large egg white, 24 grams of custard sugar, 1 tablespoon of matcha powder. What I find is adding matcha prevents the surface from forming a layer of milk skin. Also, when passing through a sieve, tons of matcha got stuck with some curdled egg white, making it more difficult to pass through. In the end, a lot of matcha got discarded. The result, though, looks much better. It has passed both the tests. Beautiful jiggles, silky and matcha-y. My thought is good, but not great. I wonder if I can improve it. So here comes the test. I made 2 versions and a 3rd standard milk version to be the control. All use 1 large egg white. Version 1 mimics matcha latte using equal parts of water and whipping cream, 2 teaspoons of matcha powder, and 24 grams of sugar. This version doesn't even set after being chilled overnight, except maybe the surface, which could be the fat that has risen to the top. I must say though, the flavor is superb. Not bad to drink as a creamy matcha latte. Version 2 calls for tons of milk powder to mimic the water buffalo fat content. Matcha powder and sugar unchanged. This one jiggles confidently right after steaming and sets well after chilling. The surface looks a little rough with a layer of matcha powder afloat on the top, but underneath, the color is uniform. Interestingly, the surface is quite elastic, almost too much for custard, but then it dances beautifully, so it's a mystery to me. Texture-wise, it's neither creamy or silky by eye. The flavor is not bad, but I can clearly feel the grittiness. To compare, I made a control. Same recipe as the very beginning standard version, but I reduced the milk by 10 ml. It tastes at the edge of being too sweet, but still less sweet than version 2. The control version, though, has a thick layer of matcha sunk at the bottom. Neither has worked perfectly, but now that I have some idea, here comes the second test. Version 3 again mimics water buffalo milk, but with a combination of milk and even more milk powder. Oops, the opening is not good. When digging in, the spoon feels quite some resistance. This is not a good sign. See? No jiggle. Try again. Looks fantastic, but tough and no jiggle. The flavor is superb, best among all previous versions. Only the top tastes a little gritty. It came to my mind that I mistakenly used cream instead of milk, so the ratio is way off. Anyway, this batch has the most uniform color. There are some white spots on the surface, so I think I must have used too much milk powder. By hindsight, it seems the control version is unnecessary, but I made one at the same time with version 3. This time, I cut the sugar a little. You know what? Even though the tested version doesn't work, I think this 3rd control recipe could be the best one if no better version comes up. So, beaten by making 6 bowls 3 days in a row, I decided to go back to the basics. Learning the pros and the cons from all these recipes, I decided to create a version that mimics the ratio of my plain flavored double skim milk custard. So here comes version 4. Pale green color, smooth surface, set well, and it passed both tests. There's a thin layer of skim has formed as the back of the spoon is almost clean. The top has no gritty bits visible. The whole body has a uniform color, except some matcha sunk at the bottom. The spoon feels super satisfying. Beautiful jiggles, just as expected. The texture looks super creamy and tempting, like melted ice cream. And the taste? Wow, how do I describe it? Just like melted ice cream. This is it, definitely the best recipe so far. I gave you a replacement recipe for the plain flavored custard, should you wish not to use cream. So here's version 5, which mimics the ratio of the replacement. This version, though, has a thin layer of matcha afloat on the top and a thick layer of matcha sunk at the bottom. The jiggle looks good. It tastes a little eggy. The texture breaks, although the mouth won't detect it. I still have the control version from yesterday. Tasting them side by side, it's clear the control version stands out. But before calling it, I steamed 1 more bowl. Remember in version 3, I accidentally used cream instead of milk? Now it's corrected, along with some adjusted milk powder. It has all the nice features. Well set, uniform color, beautiful jiggle, soft and creamy taste, except for 2 things. The texture breaks as one, although it doesn't affect the taste. The side of the bowl looks a little gritty as 2, but not a big issue unless you pay close attention. A small amount of matcha sunk at the bottom, but much less than the control version. I reckon this one outweighs the standard milk version, even without control. Luckily, I saved some version 4 from yesterday, just to have a side-by-side comparison. Both jiggles beautifully, but see the difference? Version 4 absolutely wins in terms of texture. Now, moment of truth. I think I still love the super creamy, silky, and ice cream taste better. This is the best recipe, and this is the runner-up. Here's how to make the best recipe. You will need 15 grams of milk powder, 2 teaspoons of matcha powder, 150 grams of hot water, 105 grams hot whipping cream, a large egg white, and 21 grams of sugar. First, pass the egg white through a sieve. Using fresh egg white will take a longer time, but be patient. Add the sugar and whisk. Then sift the matcha powder to the milk powder. Whisk till homogeneous. Add the hot water by 2 batches to avoid too many lumps. Then add the hot whipping cream and whisk. Temper the egg white before adding the remaining liquid. Then pour back to the bowl through a sieve. This is why you better pre-sift the egg white. Bathe it back in the liquid and use the back of the spoon to smash. It comes up clean. Cover and steam on high with boiling water underneath for 15 minutes. Immediately peel off the cling foam. Don't worry about wobbliness. Chill overnight and it will set. Well, guess I need to improve my shaking skill. Anyway, I hope this angle provides you with a better view of what the best recipe looks like. Enjoy and ciao.